Good evening, and welcome back to another reading of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. This being A Christmas Carol in prose, being a ghost story of Christmas by Charles Dickens with 4 illustrations in color and 4 woodcuts by John Leech, facsimile of the original edition, with an introduction by J.K. Chesterton and a preface by B.W. Metz. London, Cecil Palmer, Oakley House, Bloomsbury Street, WC1. And we are starting on Stave 4, Part 2 tonight. If you have not seen the previous staves or the previous videos, I recommend going back and watching those to catch yourself back up. I will be reading a little bit of the previous night's reading to catch us back up to where we were. But if this is the portion of the video where I tell you that if you do not want to stay for the facts, opinions, and historical portion of the video, feel free to jump ahead to what I have written down here, or when I pick this book back up again. This is my own personal opinion, but ghost stories were made for Christmas, and this is a long, steep tradition in Victorian culture. The Victorian boom in England embraced this, making ghost stories a staple of Christmas Eve gatherings, often featured in magazines and penny dreadfuls, Dickens himself being included in these. But potentially one of the oldest forms of a ghost story through the winter season, as it would be the Wild Hunt. Now this is an old pagan custom of the old god dying at Halloween and then being reborn again at Yule. Sound familiar? But first he goes along the countryside leading what is called the Wild Hunt. The Japanese, I think, had something similar called the Thousand Night Parade. This being where all the unseelie fae and all the demons of the world and all of these monsters create a kind of parade and tear across the sky, chasing everything down in their path. So I think it's more just the human nature to be predisposed to run in when it gets dark and when it gets cold, and spooking ourselves in the process to do so. Charles Dickens wrote other ghost stories as well, one being The Signal Man, another being Haunted House, another one The Haunted Man, and then the fourth that I will mention is To Be Read at Dusk, literally the name of the title telling you when to read the story. I really highly recommend going and finding these. A couple of them are very interesting reads, like Cricket on the Hearth. It's one of my favorites, other than A Christmas Carol. But if you would be interested in me reading any of these for next year's Christmas Carol read-along, or I guess Christmas story read-along, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I think the Christmas story that I'm going to go for next year might be Oliver Twist or The Little Match Girl. We'll see which one that we choose. I think I'm going to leave it up to people in the comments if they want that. Could even read The Nutcracker, honestly. That might be a good one. Another one I'd be interested in reading is The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle. This one is by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It is a significantly Christmas setting and is a murder mystery. There is also The Mistletoe Bough by Anthony Hope, and that is the famous tale of a bride who hides in a trunk and is never found. So let me know which one you want me to read in the comments, or if you want me to read any of them, or if you would just like me to stick to my normal everyday adventures as per usual. Without much further ado, let's pick back up to where we were. Scrooge glanced towards the phantom. Its steady hand was pointed to the head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted that the slightest raising of it, the motion of a finger upon Scrooge's part, would have disclosed the face. He thought of it. How easy it would be to do, and longed to do it, but had no more power to withdraw the veil than to dismiss the spectre at his side. O cold, cold, rigid, dreadful death, set up thine altar here, and dress it with such terrors as thou hast at thy command. For this is thy dominion.
But of the loved, revered, and honoured head thou canst not turn one hair to thy dread purpose, or make one feature odious. It is not that the hand is heavy and will fall down when released. It is not that the heart and the pulse are still, but that the hand was open, generous, and true, the heart brave, warm, and tender, and the pulse a man's. Strike, shadow, strike, and see his good deeds springing from the womb to sow the world with life immortal. No voice pronounced these words in Scrooge's ear, and yet he heard them when he looked upon the bed. He thought that if this man could be raised up now, what would be his foremost thoughts? Avarice? Hard-dealing, gripping cares? They have brought him to a rich end, truly. He lay in the dark, empty house, with not a man, a woman, or child to say he was kind to me in this or that. For the memory of one kind word, I will be kind to him. A cat was tearing at the door, and there was a sound of gnawing rats beneath the hearthstone. What they wanted in the room of death. And why were they so restless and disturbed? Scrooge did not dare to think. "Spirit," he said, "this is a fearful place. In leaving it, I shall not leave its lesson, trust me. Let us go." Still the ghost pointed with an unmoved finger to the head. "I understand you," Scrooge returned. "And I would do it if I could. But I have not the power, Spirit. I have not the power." Again it seemed to look upon him. "If there is any person in the town who feels emotion caused by this man's death," said Scrooge, quite agonized, "show that person to me, Spirit. I beseech you." The phantom spread its dark robe before him for a moment like a wing, and withdrawing it, revealed the room of daylight, where a mother and her children were. She was expecting someone, and with anxious eagerness, for she walked up and down the room, started at every sound, looked out from the window, glanced at the clock, tried, but in vain, to work with her needle, and could hardly bear the voices of the children in their play. At length the long-expected knock was heard. She hurried to the door, and met her husband, a man whose face was careworn and depressed, though he was young. There was a remarkable expression in it now, a kind of serious delight, in which he felt ashamed, and which he struggled to repress. He sat down to the dinner that had been hoarding for him by the fire, and when she asked him faintly, "What news?" which was not until after a long silence, he appeared embarrassed how to answer. "Is it good?" she said, or bad?" to help him. "Bad," he answered. "We are quite ruined?" "No. There is hope yet, Caroline."
"If he relents," she said, amazed. "There is. Nothing is past hope, if it's such a miracle has happened."
"He is past relenting," said her husband. "He is dead." She was a mild and patient creature, if her face spoke truth, but she was thankful in her soul to hear it, and she said so with clasped hands. She prayed forgiveness in the next moment and was sorry, but the first was the emotion of her heart. What the half-drunken woman whom I told you of last night said to me when I tried to see him and obtain a week's delay, and what I thought was a mere excuse to avoid me, turns out to have been quite true. He was not only very ill, but dying then.
"To whom will our debt be transferred?"
I don't know. But before that time, we shall be ready with money. And even though we were not, it would be bad fortune indeed to find so merciless a creditor in his successor. We may sleep tonight with light hearts, Caroline. Yes. Soften it as they would, their hearts were lighter. The children's faces hushed and clustered round to hear what they so little understood were brighter. And it was a happier house for this man's death. The only emotion that the ghost could show him caused by the event was one of pleasure. Let me see some tenderness connected with the death, said Scrooge. Or that dark chamber spirit, which we left just now, will be forever present to me. The ghost conducted him through several streets familiar to his feet, and as they went along, Scrooge looked here and there to find himself, but nowhere was he to be seen. They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, that dwelling that he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the fire. And that is where we stop for tonight. Join us again tomorrow for another reading of A Christmas Carol. I'm going to go sob in a corner now. Good night.